Welcome back to another episode of New Limits Podcast. This podcast and every podcast is brought to you by my real estate company. If you need anything real estate related, feel free to contact me. Information will be on the description of this episode. And welcome back, Gabi Vargas.
Thank you. Gracias. Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes. So if you guys are first tuning into this episode, Gabi Vargas was actually one of the very first guests on this episode. So we brought her back because she has a lot to share. And this episode wouldn't be New Limits without, having a business owner, an entrepreneur, somebody that is doing the thing and walking the walk and talking the talk. So let's get into it.
Yes. No, thank you for having me back. I know that since I was here, I think it was January 1st, a lot has happened. And I mean, we've been doing so many things together. Who would have known? And so one of the things that, I've always shared with you about, the word new limits, or like the words, it's kind of like some people are like, no, why would you want limits? Let's do no limits in life, right? But after we met, you inspired me to start my podcast, and then so many things happened. And I know we were talking recently, and I was like, I want to come back because I truly think that I am a true example of having limits. And when you come across those limits, what you have to do to, reach the next level, Right. So thank you for having me back. I'm so excited to talk about all the great things that have been happening, and also some real things. I told you earlier, I was like, Rigo, there's going to be things I want to share, and it really couldn't be with someone else because what's been happening at Poema.
Right. A lot of things have been happening at your studio, Poema.
Yes.
So let's start with when last time we were here, you didn't even have a studio, right?
I didn't have a studio. I was doing the virtual wellness support group since COVID. And then I didn't even have a podcast either. So, yeah. And now my studio's downstairs.
And now I see you putting up podcast every week. You have interesting guests that talk about, mental health and suicide prevention. Talk to us a little bit about your new podcast. Yeah,
well, my new podcast is part of the Poema Studio, which is, again, downstairs, 21 South Spring Street. A studio where we record stories of hope, bring awareness through education, anything that's related to mental wellness and emotional wellness. One of them being art, and we've been doing art therapy, a drumming circle we started. But I kind of want to go back to share my story about why I even have a studio now.
Right. Because you went through many different phases. Like we joke around. We went through Poema 1.0, 2.0. We're up to 4.0 now. Because
seriously, yes.
Because there's just so much that goes into creating a studio. It's not an easy path, and if it would be easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah. So. And actually, I think back on when you had me on the podcast, you even said Poema Foundation, and I was like, no, Poema is not the foundation. Right. Poema was the name of the art therapy that I had started last year. And because of COVID, I wasn't able to open a studio that I wanted to open. So I kind of thought about sharing the story and should I share it or not? But you know what? My mission is to break stigma. And since I started, my work with suicide prevention, I got to see how some people don't understand. There's so much stigma, even in the healthcare system, even in churches, even in organizations and businesses, where really it comes from a place of, I wouldn't say anger, but courage. I want to use the word courage. When I see the unfairness and the people that don't understand people with mental illness, and they don't understand the topic, and they just want to assume and judge, it gives me this courage to move forward with what I'm doing. So I started my foundation, the Gabi Vargas Foundation. We had talked about that in the last podcast. So right now I'm in the middle of making it a nonprofit. Thank God. So let's go back.
Let's go back
yes.
to 1.0?
Yeah.
Poema 1.0?
Poema 1.0.
All right.
So I didn't have a location to meet with people. I remember telling you I was meeting with people virtually, or last year I would meet people at Starbucks, or I even had someone come meet me at my house, and people were like, you can't do that. But people wouldn't understand that, that I needed people needed someone to talk to and someone to meet with. Right. So my pastor, shout out to Pastor Danny, who I love at our church. Shout out to our church family.
Shout out to Pastor Danny.
Yes, he rented a space in a business here in Elgin, and he came to me and said, "Hey, like I have the space. I want you to use it for Poema." So we even had an event. That's when you played.
Yes.
You came and played.
You had a Poema, Noche Poema, right?
Yeah, it was to celebrate my 1 year of my art therapy. So 2/6/2020.
And by the way, it was an awesome event because you had Nico, the musician.
Nico.
But the event took a twist, right?
What do you mean?
The twist. Well, talk to us about like the one.
What I want to share. Yes. So we had the event to celebrate the 1 year of this art therapy. Again, Poema Studio didn't even exist. And we had Nico and Tyrone and Gloria. It was like such a great, awesome event. And I was so excited for this location. Mm-hmm. And so after I came to your podcast, I was like, someone had already reached out to me like last year and said, "Hey, like I want to help you put out your podcast." Jeremy from One Source Productions. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Jeremy.
Shout out to Jeremy.
Yeah. So we started recording. I think we were recording like maybe 2 or 3 episodes. I think we were in our second episode. So you know what? I don't know what was happening in this person's life, but the owner of this location just came and screaming and kicked us out of the location.
Yes, that was the twist I was talking about.
Yeah, and he knew what I was doing. I spoke to him personally, and as I was organizing this event, and I said I do suicide prevention, this and that. Well, that day, again, far from having a bad day, like I couldn't believe that he kicked us out the way he kicked us out. And I felt so heartbroken because again, I was having this podcast with members of my support group. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people don't understand that we need a safe place. And so when I thought I had the safe place, it was so disappointing to see that I didn't.
Right.
So one of the times that we met up here to record, I remember walking around the corner and I saw the For Rent sign. Uh-huh. But I just saw it. Like, I just remember seeing it. Yeah. So when that happened, I remember, like, I had just... I had just seen it, and then you told me, "Hey, like they're renting the downstairs. You should come check it out. Maybe you could meet there." So I went and I checked it out, and I was like, "Nah, doesn't seem like this is the place like for me, right?"
Right. It's a basement. It's dark and gloomy down there.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually saw it on Monday morning. Oh. Shout out to Ben Henriksen, my landlord. Yes. Seriously, he's like an angel. Like he is someone that I will thank for forever. And so that night, like I drove like it's literally like around the corner where we were at, where we got kicked out of really bad. Like you don't treat people like that.
What do you mean? He was like screaming at you?
Screaming at us, like wouldn't take my apology because he was like, "You're not supposed to be here.
You're not supposed to be doing events."
Well, you're not. I don't know who you are to be here. And I just remember hearing those words, and again going back to what led me to start this was God telling me I had to do this, and I was like, "Well, I know you don't know who I am, but I know who God. I know God knows who I am."
I can only imagine, how disappointing and how disheartening that would feel, like having the awesome event that you had, which is for a great cause, and then having somebody come in there and just be like, "Get the hell out of here."
Yeah, well, the event got cut short, and I was also kind of told to leave in a very rude way by his wife.
Oh my God.
Like we're really, I feel kind of like, should I be sharing this? But you know what? This is who I am. Yeah. I will stand up for this because I believe in this.
Well, not only that, but like I think it's important also for our listeners and for people who are watching out there, like building something. Sometimes you're gonna have your lows. Sometimes you're gonna have those really, really low moments in life that are like you're like, "Fuck, man!" Like, is this the end of it? But that wasn't even the end of it. That was the beginning of everything. Beginning.
Yeah. And again, there's more to my story prior to this, but like that 2/6/2020 event got cut short at night. Like, so here I am, like getting kicked out, and I turned the corner and I told AJ, Tito, and Shaw, who were recording the podcast with me, I was like, "You know what? I'm going to come back and check this place out again. I was just here yesterday, but I'm going to come back and check it out. Right. And I said, and you know what? I don't know how, but God is going to give us a place, and it's going to be a miracle. It's going to be a miracle. And if it's not this place, it's going to be something else. Right. So that gave me, to me, that was a limit. Like, for me, like, the limit was first meeting at Starbucks and then meeting it on virtual. Like, those little limits that I kind of created, like, that were created at the same time, I had to overcome those limits. But when this experience happened, I was like, oh my goodness, what if I was meeting with a group that needed support? If someone was suicidal? What if I had a special guest that really, people needed to hear their story? Like, how do you do that to people, especially because we're human beings? Right. And, apart from anything, because we had just bought food and we were waiting for food. And I'm like, we were customers at that moment. Like, he could have, like, addressed us like customers, like, hey, sorry, we're about to close. So, like, his employee came and said, hey, like, we closed at 8:00. You guys can't eat here. And I was like, no, like, we're here with our church. And, again, it was like kind of like I try to apologize and to say, hey, sorry, but you don't even treat your customers like that. At that point, I left. That it was a Tuesday night, because actually I'm wearing my flannel, the first flannel I wore on that podcast, and my boots, because we do flannels and boots Tuesday night podcast. Yes. So that Tuesday night, we came and I remember it was snowed down, it was cold, and we were just parked outside the building downstairs, and I said, I'm going to come back and check it out. So I went back and checked it out the next day.
But what was it? Was it like a gut feeling? Because the first time you looked at it, you're like, this isn't the spot. Yeah. Why did you go back?
I hadn't thought about that, but I just felt like I had already made the connection of a spot.
Was it that oh no, wait, never mind.
I guess it was just
that
like
painting.
What?
The painting
no,
with the energy.
No, I really thought, I was like, look, maybe this place I could just meet like a support group, nothing. I guess initially I wanted something more like an open space, like where people could have windows and look outside and have like socials and everything. But like being downstairs, it wasn't the initial the thing
initial
I saw myself
idea that you had.
Yeah. So I go back and check out the place. I meet Ben downstairs, and then it was interesting because I told Ben I was starting a podcast. And when we looked at the nook, Ben's like, that's the perfect nook for the podcast. Right. And I was like, yeah, you're so right. It is. Yes. So even that I want to talk about what it took to get this place. I didn't have any business credit. To be honest with you, that's as a first gen, I came here from Mexico, so I'm not even like first generation. I am like,
right.
You're
an immigrant.
An immigrant, yeah. You don't really have sometimes those resources, you don't
have connections.
Maybe I don't have like money from my family that are like the support.
Right.
Even like the support from my family, because I feel like sometimes they don't understand what I'm doing.
Yeah. But
I came downstairs and I looked at it, and then Ben was like, well, if you're interested, fill out your application and everything. And I remember, so I want to say a shout out to Tom Ghosh from Rotary, Kathy, who helped me get the place, because I am currently the president of a satellite club in Schaumburg Coffin Estates. So happened that Tom and I were meeting on something, and I mentioned like, hey, I went and I checked out this place, but I don't know if I can get it. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I have no business credit. Like, I really don't have but I don't have the funds. Like, I have nothing. So how could I even get it? But at the same time, like, my faith, I'm like, God is gonna give me something. I know He's gonna give me something. Right. So he connected me with Kathy, who's a broker, and she's like, let me help you. Let me talk to the landlord. Go check it out, and if you like it, then let me know so I could talk to the landlord. And man, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna share this story because awesome. I want to give people inspiration that even if you are set, even if there's limits aren't bad. They're just They're just things you have to like,
Yes.
reach to the next level.
And I wanted to read this because you sent me this, and this is an awesome thing about knowing your limits. Because when people think of limits, they think of like, why do I have to have limits? I should be free. I should break free. But actually, this thing says there is power in knowing your personal limits. Your willingness to accept these limits can give you the means to flourish. And then it also says the wisdom that you gain through dynamic self-examination will give you the tools you need to create an individual life strategy that allows you to achieve your goals without compromising yourself or your needs. The limits you honor by focusing your energy on what you can do rather than what you cannot do will not interfere with your ambitions, unless you allow them to interfere. So when I read that, I'm like, man, okay, for you, like these limits that you had, you were like, okay, I may not have the business credit. I may not be in a position where, you think that you like maybe I can't get this place, but you reached out to Tom. What's his name?
Tom from Rotary. And so I split. I honestly, like, for a second I was like kind of embarrassed to say, hey, like, I'm trying to get this place, but I don't have money. I don't have business credit. I don't have what do I do? So he's like, just talk to Kathy. So then I remember Kathy she sent me the application, and she's like,
so hold on, let me stop you there. That's your personal limit, like you knowing like, whoa, I can't do this on my own. Maybe I should reach out to other people. And a lot of people, they think that they need to do everything on their own.
Yes.
And no successful business is ever built on your own. You need a team of people. And you are a perfect example of that. You had the Rotary, you had all these different connections that you utilized because you knew, okay, this is my limit here. Maybe I should reach out.
Or someone that could elevate you to a higher place. But like I'm saying, at first I was embarrassed to say my situation. But again, my cause and my purpose is greater than that. And that was like something that God really implanted in my heart. Like when I started doing suicide prevention, he told me, you're the David against this Goliath, and I'm going to be with you during this like fight that you have, like David, like how he fought and beat the Goliath, right? So I remember like Kathy's like, I came back and I'm like, you know what, I do like the place. So she's like, fill out the application. And then I remember it was the weekend, so we were waiting for the application, and then she sent it to me Monday. She sent it to me Saturday, and then she reached out to me and said, hey, Ben has a financially successful business that's going to come check out the studio. And I was like, oh man, like I kind of was like, of course they're going to give it to them, right? So again, thank you, Ben, because he had
another business looking at it.
Yeah, another business came and looked at it. So Ben, I know Ben's gonna hear the story, and I hope he does, because I want him to know how much he did for us, for Poema, for all those people that need Poema, Right. So I still filled out the application, and then she said, he feels like if you could find a co-signer, he could probably, you just feel better about it, right? So I filled out the application, and I reached out to someone for the first time, like in my family, to ask for the support. And I said, I'm not asking for money. I just need you to vouch for me. Can I get your signature? Yeah. And again, because sometimes people don't understand mental illness, they don't understand suicide prevention, they don't understand the mission, the work. They were like, well, let me let you know next week. Like, I don't even know, like, what are you doing? Are you just having fun? Like, what even is this? And I was like, okay, like, I'm like, it's fine. You know what? I really needed you to support me, like, today, because this financially successful company is going to come and they're going to take it.
Because you were in negotiations at that point. Like, you have to. And the way the market has been going, you have to act fast.
It was like me or them, at that point. Well, I pray. So I remember I was in my car when I was having this conversation, and I literally started crying. Like, I was just like, how can someone that doesn't have I don't have credit, I don't have, like, money, how can someone like me, that I know I'm doing something good, how can you even, do something if I felt powerless at that moment? But then again, God spoke in my heart and said, like, you are not alone. Like, I got you. don't doubt what I have for you, you know? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to fill out this application and we'll see what happens. Right. The next morning I get an email and it was from Kathy and said, Ben, he thinks you'd be a perfect fit. He likes what you're doing. He loves what you're doing and he wants to give you this deal.
Wow. Yeah. How did you feel when you heard that?
Oh my God, I started crying again because it was again another confirmation that I'm doing the right thing, that God's got me, right? Yeah. But now here, the deal was to have this amount of money. And I had zero of that amount of money.
So you needed like a down payment.
It was a deal to get the place. Okay. More than a down payment, it was a deal for the whole year. Yeah. So I said, I don't know where that money's going to come from, but she said, can you have it for him on Monday morning? And I was like, yes. Right. I can have it for him on Monday morning.
Wow. Yes. So you were like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out and this is going to happen.
Yeah, this is going to happen.
So that's your ultimate trust to the universe, saying, I know God has got me. I know the universe has got me. And it happened. Yes. And I remember...
But wait, let me share that.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was supposed to go to work on Monday and I called off work. Because I'm like, I have to 1 o'clock in the afternoon to come up with this money, and I need to call off work because I need to be able to, come up with the money in some way. Right. So it's crazy because, I got the money, all of the money that morning from someone that supported me. Right. I don't know if I should say her name, but
it's up to you.
Laura Rodriguez from Alianza Hispana, I love you so much.
Shout out to Laura Rodriguez.
Yeah, she said, I got you, Wow. And that morning, and I am getting all emotional. I got the money and I met with Ben, and a week and a half later from being kicked out of this other place, I had the keys to the studio.
A week and a half
later.
And I remember, wow, that's amazing. I remember that time when we were talking at that time, we were saying man, I don't know if I'm going to get this. It's another company. And we were just no, let's talk like you already have it. This is your studio. And get prepared to think about what color you're going to want to paint it and this and that. Yeah, we literally spoke it into existence.
Yeah, I remember I was I even called you my business neighbor. I was like, hey, business neighbor. You're like, yes. I'm like, yes, this is my studio. This is it. Right. And so, again, the amount of gratefulness that I have in my heart for everyone that supported me in getting this place. I know they know, but sometimes they don't even know how much they've done.
The impact. Because you're doing amazing things in that studio now. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it in a little bit, but that's 4.0 Poema.
4.0 Poema. So I did my ribbon cutting on 4/3/21.
April 3rd.
Yeah. It was just a white space, and I started painting. Shout out to Lupe Mesa, my art church sister, and her husband. I could say Jeremy, Jeff, so many people that supported this, getting this off the ground,
Right, getting this going.
Just coming over there, AJ, my friend Erica, we painted, and
I remember, yeah.
Okay, Houston, I'm being real. I was driving around all of the towns picking up furniture from OfferUp to furnish my studio. Right. So anyone that's out there that thinks you need to have everything, if your heart is in the right place, things will come together.
Things will align for you.
Yeah, and everybody comes down there. They're like, "This is beautiful." The studio looks nothing like it looked that month when I opened it. Right. Shout out to the mayor, David Captain, that came by even before we did the ribbon cutting. We did prayer to Lupe and Miguel, who came out there, and we did a little blessing for the studio, Jim. We did a ribbon cutting on 4/3/21.
Yes. So that was the opening of your studio, right?
The opening, yes.
And ever since then, you've been making, plans and having events at the studio. And I mean, what is that? 2.0 Poema? 3.0?
I think that's 2.0 Poema.
2.0.
Yeah. 3.0 was Gabi holding events that I was in my comfort. Comfort level,
So let's talk about that because as a business owner, that's what you are. You're an entrepreneur. You're somebody that is building something from the ground up. You have a vision and you want to help so many people, bring awareness to mental health and suicide prevention and all that. But, sometimes we get stuck in our comfort zones. Yes. Sometimes we get stuck in like, man, am I ready for this? And subconsciously, we don't even realize it, that we get stuck in our... It's happened to me too, It's happened to me in real estate and not like doing the things that I know I should be doing. Yeah. But for some reason, subconsciously we're like, I don't know if I want to do it.
Well, what I didn't realize about obviously starting a small business, because that's what, it comes down to. I didn't know the load of work. And at this time I was working at my previous job.
Right. So you had a full-time job as well.
I had a full-time job. Yeah. I'm a single mom to 2 boys, so that's my full-time job too. And I was overwhelmed and I was going through a lot. So I started kind of coping with things that were in my comfort zone. Like let's have a dance social. And but it was kind of like, not that it was bad, but it wasn't where I should be at. Right.
And you weren't focusing your energy on things that you should be focusing on, right?
Yeah, kind of like, like I wasn't, I guess I didn't even know what I was going to do, like what God really wanted me to do at that point. But I had a few experiences where my energy was being like led to the right place. Like, I don't know, like away from where I was going, but I think more going back in line with what I was meant to do. Okay. So, we started, we started a meeting at Poema, and then like just a support group, and then Jorge, who is another like brother from our church, said, hey, let's hold our group on Mondays nights. And now we're holding our group.
Explain what our group is.
So our group is it's a group, a Bible study or connection group that is from my church, our church, and
the letter R, right?
Yeah, the letter R.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, to be clear. So we meet on Mondays, and Jorge was leading it. So we the topic was, the topics that we talk about are topics that he comes up with. But I really, truly am grateful that he included Poema in it. So even this past Monday, I did soaking prayer meditation, which you were a part of.
Yeah, that was an amazing event. Amazing. I can't even explain it in words.
Yeah, I just think that I didn't realize that I needed to be more connected with my Creator and the main, the main source of all of this, the one that's funded this, the one that's brought the right people into my life. Because it feels, it's hard when you're trying to do something and you don't have the support from the people you think should support you.
Right. Who you think should support you.
Yeah. So I was so focused on like, why are these people that are so close to me not supporting me? How come they don't care about what I'm doing? Like, to me, I'm like, I'm doing something amazing, something different. I'm like, paving the way for so many people. It's hard. I'm being courageous. There's moments where it was like sleepless nights. And I was just like, at one point, I was like, you know what? I don't even want to hold Poema anymore. I felt like I wanted to close the doors of Poema and say, I'm going to work on myself and just tell everybody I'm sorry. I just need a couple months to work on myself. And something else happened, and it was like, you can't do that. Yeah. You just got to keep trusting in God. And again, my pastor's been, I called him once for an experience that I had with someone, and like just hearing him like speak those words of encouragement to me, I was like, I need to be more connected with God. And I'm really glad that we had the art group there on Mondays, because it's not just about God. Like, we welcome anyone that just wants to, express themselves or just be connected with other human beings. Like, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, or if you're spiritual or not. We just want you to know that there's people that care about others and love others and accept others, and we're just there for each other. Yeah. So that kind of, that encouraged me to see like within myself, because sometimes I doubt my abilities, or I doubt what I can do like for people, because I'm not perfect. Right. I'm healing my own things. I'm working on myself every day. I never, when I started doing all of this, I never thought that I was going to have so much responsibility. Right. And with responsibility comes sometimes that blockage of even being vulnerable and being human yourself. Yes. Because like for me, that's been a challenge too. Like, I'm going through stuff, yet I have to put on that strong face that I got it.
Yeah.
That I got it together, that you can come to me. And there was times that I needed someone. And I'm so thankful because when I say Poema family, like they've been there for me.
Yeah.
Like they saw me at my lows and they are still there for me. And we're just there to support each other and bring awareness and tell other people like, hey, like there's a place that you can find acceptance and compassion and love.
Definitely. And that's what you feel that energy when you go down there. I mean, everyone that's involved in your Poema family, you know, you can, that loyalty that you guys have towards, you know, your cause and your mission and each other is just so, you don't see that too often.
We call each other out with love. Like we don't just want to like each other to, we don't let each other stay in the comfort zone. Like we did an open mic night, and that's where you introduced Ed. Yeah, so he has become a big part of your podcast group and Poema family. He's part of the Poema family. He does like video. We transitioned into the YouTube channel. Right. Shout out again to Edgar, who from Wintrust Bank, who, also helped me with like the banking stuff, all of these things that you need help and support with, right? That those things that, people inspire you and like make you believe that you're on the right path or help you believe in yourself. Because some people like, they're like, oh, what you created is amazing. What you're doing is amazing. But like we shared with one of our guests, she said, everybody wants to like hear about the glory, but nobody wants to hear about the struggle. And I'm glad that you're bringing that up, the struggle, because that is what makes the glory so much more sweeter. Knowing that you spend those sleepless nights crying, that you felt like you wanted to shut the doors and just not continue anymore. I think that is more common than not in business owners, because owning a small business, it's a very, very emotional adventure that you're going to go through. And you were a big part of my journey as well. Because we also went through that low, and trying to figure out, man, what do I want to do with this and with that? Yeah. Even when you were sharing to me about your, just your, I guess I would say like you thinking about what this New Limits podcast was. That's what I was like, bring me back, because I want to share with people that New Limits is just like a stepping stone to where you want to go. And sometimes life will take you this way and it will take you this way, but stay true to yourself, to your purpose, to your mission. If you know this is what you want to do, go for it. And again, when I say I'm going to change, if I'm going to change generations, like I forgot about what the heaviness of that, and with that comes the struggle, like those times that I cry because people don't understand what I'm doing, like it just gives me like the reassurance and the growth to say I'm on the right path, because somebody's got to go through this. When we share things on the podcast, and even this moment right now, me sharing this is part of me changing this for other people, paving the way for others. And you're becoming a voice to others who maybe don't have that courage right now to speak out, but they see you and you give them permission to speak out. All the things that you're doing with your podcast, the drumming circle that we have now, and everything. So you were the one that saw the drumming circle and sent me like a little video, and I connected with Carson. Shout out to Carson from Downtown Elgin Association. Shout out to Carson. Yes. Who introduced us to Joe. Shout out to Joe. And then we're like, by then we had already started the drumming circle, right? But first we already had one or two events at Festival Park with Verge, who shout out to Verge. Yes, from Madison, who came out to help us start this drumming circle. And then all of a sudden we realized that someone else wants to do a drumming circle in the farmers market. Right. That was such an awesome day, because I was walking down the farmers market, right? And I'm like, there's a drumming circle over here. And I was looking for you. I'm like, wait, Gabi's not over here. Whose drumming circle is this? And I was like, I got to talk to these guys, because we have to collaborate. We have to. So then, I met Carson and I shared with him what we were doing. Right. And then he's like, do you have a tent? And I was like, no, I don't have a tent. And he's like, well, get a tent and I'm going to see how I can, help you become a community partner to the farmers market. So one of my, supporters of this mission, he's like, by like 2 days later, he comes in with a box and he's like, I got you a tent. Right. I was like, Ernesto, thank you so much. Nice. Shout out to Ernesto. I'm like, it's just like, again,
all these amazing people, like
all these people that believe not just in me, like that they believe. I think that they believe in the mission. They believe in the cause, you know.
Right.
So so now we're at the farmers market. So you see my booth.
Friday.
Yeah, stop by.
What is the farmers market? Is every Friday from 3 to 7 in downtown Elgin here. Yes. Your table is like right in the middle of like all the tables, right?
Yeah, next to the info booth.
So, and then we have a drumming circle there at 6:30 p.m. with Joe.
6:30.
So come on by if you want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other episode that we could get into.
We really should have another episode on it.
Yeah, because drumming circles, we just had a talk today, but drumming circles, they're a big part of, I think, your future and what you're going to do with kids and the youth.
Today we had our first full kids drumming circle, and it was amazing.
Yes, it was amazing.
And now, again, apart from making my foundation a nonprofit, we see the drumming circle and the podcast as a traveling drumming circle podcast.
Okay.
So we want to spread awareness, not just here in Elgin. Obviously, our YouTube channel and podcast is a platform that will help us share the message all over the world. But I speak into existence that God is amazing and His purpose is beyond greater than I ever imagined.
Yes.
So I'm going to travel the world and share this.
You're not walking alone when you walk with God. He has so many good things for you, Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about. I think
also believing in humanity in others, because sometimes we just think people are like not for you and against you, but maybe it's not the people you think, but again, like God will put you, or life will put you, the right people when your heart is in the right place.
This is something that I learned by doing the drumming circles, and I talked a little bit about that on one of the talks that we had, is that when you do these drumming circles, you realize that all these barriers that we have between us, like light skin, you're dark skin, all the barriers that you have between, they're all like bullshit. Like we all just want to connect, and we all want to be part of a community, We
just want connection.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing.
We need connection.
That's what I feel like your studio is. It's just like a big hub of like connected vibes. Is what we call
vibes.
It.
Yeah. If you walk in down there, you'll see the little rug you got for our podcast, Connected Vibes. Because you can't connect and collaborate with everyone. Not everyone. Remember, I kept saying not everyone is for you. You are not for everyone, and not everyone is for you. And so again, sometimes you got to see if this opportunity, if this partnership, if this collaboration is for you.
Right.
And sometimes it's not, and that's like I've learned so much.
Part of life. I mean, that's you gotta. You attract what you put out, I think, and eventually, as long as you're aligned with your mission and your goals, you're going to be attracting the right people, just like you said.
And one of the things, serving others. Like I know a lot of people question, like, well, how are you shouldn't you be spending more time doing this instead of that? That's not even giving you money. Like honestly, I haven't made money. Like right now, I'm still faithful to believing that God is gonna provide. Right now I've kind of been like discovering what I really wanted to do, the painting events, everything. It's been kind of like even though you go down there and it's dark, it's almost like I'm in the cocoon, growing and transforming. Transforming who I am as a person, transforming the work, transforming all the ideas, and soon I will fly. I don't even think I've flown yet.
Through your all your events and everything that you're doing, you're rediscovering. You're also healing yourself through the work that you're doing.
Believing in myself, healing myself. I'm no longer at my job that I was at for 14 years, and that's just another episode.
Yeah.
Another episode that I really want to dive into, that and my experience of how COVID affected my job and affected me as a person, and how after 14 years, like you're not there, and now I have so much to think about, like what am I gonna do without a job, and all these things, like all these struggles that I know I am being strengthened by these situations. And again, Rigo, like if one thing that I could tell people out of if they could take out of this podcast is don't stop believing that there is hope, and that there you have a purpose, and like regardless of what happens. Poema, like what it means is, a poema is an epic poem of 1,000 words pages or words more, where a hero of his story shares all the obstacles that he had to go through to make it.
It's an epic story, an epic hero, right?
Yeah, and so now we even have a poema song, and we say, in part of the song says, "You are the artist of your own poem. Be the artist of your own poem." Thank you, AJ, for composing and producing that song.
Right, and that's the intro to your podcast.
That's the intro to my podcast. Yes.
Yep.
We'll have to. We'll eventually release it. AJ hasn't released any of his music yet, but yeah, you could be no matter what you've gone through, you get to change that. You're a beautiful masterpiece. You get to if you paint, you have a blank white canvas. You paint something on it. If it's not what you see, what you like, then you paint over it again and you fix it. And Jorge, who's an artist, was sharing that there's artists that he worked on his art for one piece of art months. And he said, I would leave it and come back to it, and I was so attached to it that I have 25 of them and I don't even want to sell them. That's how much I love them, and that's how I feel like Poema has been. I feel like my life is, because again, in this podcast that we have in the YouTube channel, I'll be sharing more about personal stories of myself where I felt so unworthy. I felt shameful of my past. I felt like, how could God use me? How could I help other people? And now here I am. Yeah,
I think those are stories that are very, very important to share, being vulnerable, because nobody's perfect. And by you being open and vulnerable, it allows others to share that and to feel like they're not alone as well in their struggles and their life, because everyone goes through things, everyone goes through things. And I think the work that you're doing is very, very special. And I only see good things for you.
Thank you. No, I was just thinking, I remember when we started the podcast, we had no equipment, and Rich, shout out to Rich, he sent me a mic, and we have our mic there, even though it's not the mic that we use, but that is the mic,
the legacy mic,
the legacy mic that we use. And he's also our official sponsor. From he designs his own drums, so now we have this drumming circle going, and that's our main thing right now, apart from open mic night, which is going to happen at 9:00 on Fridays, a place where people can come and they can play the guitar or sing or read poetry or whatever they'd like. We're also going to be doing bachata class at 9:00.
That's right.
Because I believe that we could still have socials. We just need to know how to be more responsible and provide a safe place.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I like what you said. They're a safe place because people want to feel connected, especially down there. And I think, is this mic working?
Yes,
it's cutting off. And I think that's special what you're doing down there at 9 p.m. Because when I first met you and I met Poema, that's what I loved about. I feel like this mic's cutting off. Your Noche Poemas, the expression of art, poetry, the open expression of somebody to express that art out of them. We all have an inner creative spirit inside of us. Each one of ours is a little different. Some people, for some people, it's hidden under some baggage. But I think your space allows them to open up and to find that creative spirit inside of them. And the work that you're doing through your podcast, which comes out every Tuesday night, right?
Yeah, it comes out every Tuesday night. And one of the beautiful things that I think about all of this is, how did I end up in the art district of Elgin? And I've been able to see how much love is in Elgin, the heart of Elgin. To see Anna Lally, our chief, send out our detective Scott Williams to our drumming circle. And I remember the first drumming circle, he showed up with his vest, bulletproof vest, and then his badge, and everybody was like, "Are we about to get shut down?" And then he comes in, and I said hi to him. He's like, "Oh, I'm here for the drumming circle. Our chief sent me," and I was like, "Oh my God, thank you, awesome!"
And he shows up every time.
He shows up every time, and it's just so beautiful to see that. Regardless of there being people that don't understand and may shut you down and squash you and make you feel like you can't do this, there's people that are willing to support you and are willing to be there for you.
And sometimes your biggest supporter is going to be a stranger, and your biggest hater is going to be somebody that you know personally.
I just read that quote yesterday. Yes. And I don't have any feelings of hate. If anything, that day, Rigo, after we got kicked out of there, like I went home and I prayed for him, and I said, God, there must be something going on in his life that he feels this way, because when you are struggling and when you have something happening inside you, that's like your reaction. That's what you're going to give out. So I went and I prayed for him and his family, and I blessed them, and I said, God, like whatever, you know, I was supposed to learn from this, let me learn it. But I know that, you know, again, that's part of, you know, accepting that love can change all things.
So for somebody listening to this episode, what would you say to somebody that's building a small business and is maybe in that like low, in that dry period where they're like trying to figure out where they need to take this, kind of like when you were kicked out of that place, and or many different the other lows that you had? Well,
number one, if you want to use me as a resource, please do. Come to me, message me, call me. I want to see how I can help you. Awesome. I want to make those, I want to help you find those connected vibes. And that's the first step, you know, reaching out to someone that is going to understand you. Because, you know, that was the hardest part for me, to say, I feel stuck. Like, I feel like I can't do it. But I was able to humble myself and, you know, tell Tom, this is what's happening. Eileen from Rotary, like all of them, that I had to be like humble and say, this is where I am. And, and you know, the interesting thing is that they've all been there. They're like, don't worry, like I've been there before. I needed someone. And I was just like, just to feel how much weight was lifted off my shoulders, because, you know, they were so vulnerable too, and they were like, we've been there. And I'm like, man, it could have been this easy. But again, it's all growth. It's all like, you gotta grow and you gotta overcome these new limits with the right people.
So let go of your pride, let go of that ego, and go find help.
It's like, just, I don't even think it's pride or ego, because like I wasn't prideful. I didn't have an ego. It was just, let go of that fear. The shame, the you know, be vulnerable.
Okay. I like that. I really, really like that. Well, let's end with this. You know, and that's an amazing story, because you went from an extremely low of being kicked out to now you're flourishing. You have your studio, and I see your studio every week. I feel like it's just the energy of it. It's building. You're building momentum right now.
Yeah, like everybody that goes down there, like we literally have to walk them out. All right, guys, we're leaving. You know, like nobody wants to leave the place.
And it's always so cool when you have somebody new walk down there, because that you know, we've all seen somebody new walk down there and they don't want to leave. And
the expression that they're like, oh wow, what is this place?
Like, I didn't even know a place like this existed.
Yeah, today when we asked the kids who's coming back next week, they are like, I'm coming back. And like some of the parents came and like picked up their kids, and then they're like, Mom, I'm coming back next week. You know, I was like, it's so beautiful.
I wanted to end with that, because I think that's beautiful. So talk to us a little bit about the youth drumming circle that you have going on
Thursdays at 5 o'clock.
Thursdays at 5 p.m. Where did this idea come about?
Well, at our last community drumming circle, we had a little boy that ended up drumming with us, and just to see how he enjoyed it. And you know, my oldest struggled with ADHD, and I struggled because he struggled because I was struggling. I was a young mom. I was struggling myself. And so I felt like a lot of times my son was misunderstood. I didn't know how to support him. I didn't know how to understand him. And I just literally saw this. I saw my son in this little boy's, like, you know, I just saw my son in this little boy. And when I saw that video that you sent me of this little boy drumming, and then just talking to his mom, and just hearing like you know, she was saying like, no, he doesn't sit still, and all these things. I'm like, man, if there's anyone that I can understand, you, I can understand you. So we decided, you know, I was like, what if we did like a kids drumming circle, right? And you know, I want to share this story. We were eating at Danny's Pizza the other day, and my son made a friend. And today I was like, you know what, like he came over, he's like, Mom, can you take his mom's number? I didn't even talk to this lady like at all. Like I didn't ask like, what do you do? She didn't ask me. So today my son's like, hey Mom. Well, actually the idea kind of came about Caleb, my youngest, because he's like, Mom, you should have a kids drumming circle party.
Right.
And so one day, and I was like, that would be such a cool idea. But then as I was looking at flyers, I saw like a kids drumming circle party, and I was like, that's it. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he made this friend, and that's another thing, because my kids know about suicide prevention, mental health awareness. Like they're gonna understand people like in so many ways.
At a different level.
Yeah, in a different level. So I feel like their kindness is very genuine, especially Caleb. Like he easily makes friends, and so he made this friend. I took his mom's number, and so today I was like, I should send her an invite. He's like, hey Mom, you should invite my friend, and I was like, yeah, my new friend, and I was like, yeah, I'll invite him. So I sent the flyer, and she's like, should I make a reservation? I'm like, well, if you want to save your spot, yeah. So she's like, okay, I'll call in a little bit. I was like, cool. So then she calls me like 5 minutes later, and then I was like, I was on a Zoom meeting, and I was like, hey, sorry, I can't take your call right now.
Right.
And she's like, oh, it's you. I didn't know it was you. And I was like, yeah, it's me. And she's like, oh, okay, well, save me a spot, for my son.
Okay.
So she gets there to the studio today, and she walks in, and she's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. I took her to the podcast and showed her the mural that Joel painted for us. Just beautiful. Shout out to Joel.
Joel, shout out to you, man.
Yeah, I shared about how we had lost a mutual friend to suicide, and that's why he went and painted the mural.
Right. And that mural is the background to your podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful mural.
So she tells me this boy's dad took his life 2 years ago. Wow. And I was like, what?
2 weeks ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years
okay.
ago. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. So he knows all about this. And so for me, like seeing all these kids in a circle and just seeing this little boy, I'm like, this is what it really means to change generations. This is what it really, who knows what will come about, like these little kids, like, just being there for each other.
Right.
Him seeing the suicide prevention, mental health awareness. His mom was like, this is what she does. And then he was like, cool. And like, this other little boy that obviously needs like more confidence in himself, because like I'm sure kids that are dealing with like behavior issues or like that they're misunderstood, they're not usually invited to parties. They don't easily make friends, and I just feel like or like they don't have an adult that can be patient with them.
Yeah.
So this is part of like more than anything just maybe doing something I wish someone had done for me. And you know what, there was always that regret that I felt like I wish Josh, my oldest, would have had a better version of myself as a mom.
Right.
But you know what, like I have forgiven myself for that because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that I can give back to the world is maybe helping parents understand, like whatever you're going through, whatever you think you can get help for, like if you get help, you're going to be a better parent, Yeah. And I don't say this because I'm perfect or because I think I have it all together. I definitely don't. I say it because I just want people to know that my story is hope.
Yeah. Nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So wow.
So thank you for allowing me to come back to the New Limits podcast. So what version is this for you?
This is version 2.0 of New Limits for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think that, like anything that you create, you're going to go through things that like, maybe I should adjust here, I should adjust there. In any business that you do, you have to make adjustments, And for me, there's been an adjustment in my personal life and in my business life, I feel like I'm catching momentum now, just like you. And it's beautiful when you just focus in on something and then you're like, all right, I'm going to focus on this and you'll catch momentum eventually,
Yeah, for sure. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come back into your space and being someone I could share the story with. Like, I didn't know today what I was going to share, but I just feel like this was necessary. It was necessary for me to put this out there for someone to believe in themselves.
And to see you flourishing right now and catching momentum with everything that you're doing is very inspirational. And it's an honor to have you on here because when we had you on here last time, we didn't even know it was the start to something amazing that you were gonna build downstairs out here. So thank you again for being
nobody
here.
Nobody would have known.
Thank you again for being here and for sharing and being vulnerable and sharing your story of hope.
Thank you.
For everyone that's listening, if you think that, you know, you don't have enough support, your family doesn't support you, or you don't have the connections or the money, for me, Gabi is a perfect example of somebody that overcomes those limits and reaches higher and higher limits.
Yeah. So new limits, evolve and reach the next level.
Evolve and reach the next level.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of New Limits Podcast.
Yeah.
And
don't forget to subscribe and like it and share it. Let's support Rigo in his journey. And, you know, I wouldn't be here sharing the story if it wasn't for you. So I really hope people can, you know, support you as well. I will continue supporting you as a friend, and, you know, just as someone that I see you changing lives as well, just through your own story.
Wow, thank you.
So thank you so much.
That's right. So leave a comment if you find something inspirational. If you want to also, like Gabi said, like it, subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.